Mm. Oh, look at this crappy place. Hey, it's Dallas here, just doing another walk-in talk, which is perhaps a better version of a podcast, in my opinion. At least as far as solo podcasts go, you know. Not just better for you, because it's some changing scenery, perhaps more interesting to watch than sitting in a studio. It's better because it's healthy for me. I'm out here getting fresh air. Yeah. And speaking of getting out, walking, and that is a very important thing that people don't do enough, I think, in general. I think just almost every modern human, I don't know why I'm looking around so much. I'm enjoying the scenery. I'm sorry. Every modern human, I digress, doesn't walk enough. Let's be honest, man. I think ancient humans probably walked, well, multiple kilometers, if not tens of kilometers every day, and ran probably multiple kilometers, or climbed, jumped, hiked through the forests, etc. Or they're at least out. They're always on their feet doing things, unless they're sitting, like in certain situations in the cold in the north, you would have to sit inside in the winter and stay warm, or in hot places you sit under a tree to stay warm. I mean, just to stay cool. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just thinking about this because I haven't eaten anything. And I guess some people would look at that and be like, that's not good. You should eat something. And by that I mean I haven't eaten anything today. So far. That's like most days. Strangely, I'm never overweight, whether I exercise very much or not. There was only one point in my life I would consider myself slightly overweight. And that was because I worked a job where I didn't do hardly any exercise, and I ate way too much. And ate at the job all the time, because that's just what you did. You see, but like the human body, my point here is that humans were meant to always be mobile, up and about, because generally it was a task to actually obtain food, realistically. And also, humans, exactly for that reason, didn't have just food available all the time, so there would always be periods of fasting, usually not by choice. And then in the past, though, often also by choice a lot, culturally. But yeah, for reasons like they know that fasting is valuable when you have limited resources. And those two things combined was why, of course, I would imagine, well, other than maybe a few privileged few without history, nobody was really fat. Right? That's why before gout was called King's disease. So, it really says something that now I think what we would even consider somewhat poor people, at least in the West, are getting King's disease. Makes you really question, though, how do you define living like a king, actually? I think your health is an important part of living a fulfilling and successful life. You know, I'm not really sure where to go on these trails because there was a map at the trailhead, but there's no "you are here" waypoint, or there's no "this is where you are" on the legend. And so many of these new maps they're putting up, I find, just all over maybe the province, it seems, in BC here. It's like they can't put a "you are here" on the legend, or like a starting point for some reason. And the map has like multiple trailheads on it in a lot of cases. I guess, yeah, you can go, I came up this road and parked here, this must be the name of this parking lot, but sometimes you actually just don't really know. And sometimes maybe I don't feel like taking a bunch of time to stare at the map and would rather just see a "you are here" so I know where the hell I am. What is the deal with that? It's like a symptom of our like financially twisted society, maybe. They're like, well, if there's multiple trailheads, we have to print multiple signs. We got to just print them all the same. It's easier and cheaper and faster than printing like a unique one for each one, even just if it's a little dot that says "you are here." It's too much. We can't do that. I don't know what the actual reason is. It's quite annoying. It's quite annoying. Luckily, I have a good sense of direction, so I don't need a map anyway. Anyway, I'm also not going anywhere in particular, so whatever. Sometimes it's nice to know where you are so you can find your way back. Oh, okay. So, what is the point of this? There's always a point, okay? Everything I say has a reason, trust me. Whether it's true or not, it means something. Okay, I'm playing around, but because I want to get into the meat of this podcast, so to speak, which has to do with this whole introduction about talking on the way humans were meant to live and the way that they have lived. Like, for example, starting with the food thing, humans probably spent most of history doing periods of fasting, and usually probably multiple days at a time even, right? That's why, to me, it's not a weird thing that they're finding all these health benefits for fasting, or that your metabolism works better after fasting and so on, as an example. But humans probably have other abilities in us that could be awakened, you see? Like, through meditation, through fasting, certain practices, we awaken observable abilities, like boosts of the immune system, metabolism, vitality, just in general. And when I say measurable, I mean by science, because of course, just because something can't necessarily be measured by the instruments that we have doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, or that it can't even be measured at all. It's not the case. But, as I said, to the point, it's like a very strange memory that comes along with this for me. And basically, ooh, hold on. Look how much this place sucks. What a piece of crap, eh? This world, it's so crappy. You know, people are always like, oh, this world is so bad. The world's so messed up. You can just tell. Like, look around. See those mountains over there? Shit. They're fucked. They're good in 1980, though. You know? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just burnt out and logged out. And, yeah, that lake, I don't know if you can see it down there. It's disgusting. It's polluted. You can't even swim in it. You'll just die. If you go in there, the frickin' lake monster will bite your head off. But yeah, but like I said, in 1980, actually, it was dope, though. And before that, it was even more dope. But before that, it was not very dope either. And then, okay, honestly, let's get into this crap. Okay. I hope this wind isn't too bad. Listen, this is the story. So, when I was a kid, I have this very vivid memory for some reason of being at school, and there was this game we played, okay, where we would roll the pencil on the desk, and then with just like a movement of our hands, like a magician would do, or something like this, a wizard, right? With just a movement of our hands and the power of our mind, we would roll the pencil on the desk. Okay, so let me explain this exactly. Remember those old desks where you'd it was a chair and then the desk would slant down towards you like this? So we would drop the pencil from the top of the slanted desk and it would start to roll down the desk. Then we would go like this with our hands and imagine that the pencil would be rolling back up, and a lot of the time we could somehow get the pencil to stop or change direction and sometimes even roll back up the table. Now, how were we doing that? Were we doing that? What were we doing? Were the desks slanted down like this? 100% they were. Everybody knows these types of desks, those old pieces of junk. And they're not comfortable. Everyone knows it. But anyway, so it's rolling down. And how did we get it to move without touching it? Because we would also, there were only a certain amount of boys, out of this group of, I guess, boys that were doing this. From what I remember, it was all just us boys for some reason. This was the game, and we had to do this, and we all got around. But a lot of them couldn't do it, and we would see and know somehow when people are cheating, right? Like if someone was going and kind of somehow blowing too much, they would try to blow the pencil to stop it or so. We'd be like, yo, that's cheating, man. We saw that you're blowing. You don't have the power yet, you know? Or some guys would try to stand or move so that the desk would tip up or so. And we'd be like, obviously that's cheating. You can't do it. Or some guys would get their hands real close, and try to make it an illusion that they're not touching it. And that's my point, is was it just an illusion? Were we totally crazy? No. Like I said, we even somehow had these like measures. We could tell like who the fakes were, and there was like a group of us boys that we could do it. We were like, yeah, we can move this pencil with our mind somehow. We were convinced of that either way, whether it's true or not. That's my point. But the question is how? What actually was happening there? Maybe we were actually just doing like, for example, what a magician, an illusionist in what we would call like the real world would do. You know, like these performer guys. And they make illusions that look like magic because we can't see what's happening. And maybe that's somehow what we were doing. We figured out a magic trick, so to speak. Or maybe we are actually moving the pencil with our mind. You know? Is that crazy to think that? For some reason, I don't think so. Because I wouldn't be the first to believe something like that. And there's lots of people out there that claim to do things like that. I'm not even claiming that I can do that now. And that's the point of this, is somehow we are trained out of our natural ways. And like I said, what are the other natural ways that we've been trained out of? Even just simple ones, like so much cause of our sickness in our society is because of our food and our medicine and because of our society, basically. Like, we think, oh, we couldn't survive without all this stuff. We couldn't survive without all these vaccinations and all these medications and all these hospitals. But realistically, we wouldn't need all those things if we lived a more natural, more healthy life. Of course, you got to think. To me, it's always like, because I'm someone who's hurt myself many times, it's nice to go get a cast or to go get some sort of pain medication and like a good, healing facilitation when you actually seriously hurt yourself. And like if you're in the wild, for example, like when a wild animal breaks its leg, it's done most of the time, especially if it's a prey animal. Like, you're done. You're the weakest of the pack now. When the wolves come, you ain't running. You're food. You're 100% done, right? It's such a miracle maybe that humans have gained the ability to kind of conquer that aspect of nature, right? But maybe that's not a good thing, actually. It's hard to say. Maybe it is a good thing and it's a superpower, but in a way it comes at a cost, right? However, obviously animals in the wild can heal themselves in a lot of cases. Doesn't necessarily heal properly, of course. Sometimes you see those animals with like a gimped leg and they're still giving her. Yeah, straight up, I've seen, when I was like driving across Canada, I saw like 2 or 3 three-legged coyotes. Maybe one was even a fox. Like, so maybe, like it lost its leg, probably by getting hit by a car, most likely, or I'm assuming. Seems likely. And then it made it. It's still out there going. Like, that's actually crazy. That's actually pretty wild. It's too bad it couldn't just grow the leg back, I guess. That would be nice. But either way, still impressive, right? And that's kind of the thing, too, is like humans, even just without any medical technology or anything, if you like break your leg, if you can crawl back to your cave or your cabin or whatever it is, your shelter, as long as you have a bit of food or you have someone to take care of you, then you can probably stay safe. Your biggest threat at that point's either just nature, like crazy weather somehow, or other humans. Yeah. That's the thing with humans, you know. We're like the biggest danger to ourselves. But like I was getting to, it's just, you got to think how the human body can just naturally heal itself the way it does. And really, there's all these senses that we call them, all these sort of abilities. Who's to say there aren't more, right? It would kind of be a convenient explanation for things in the past we don't understand, like the building of some crazy monuments or megalithic structures. But the thing is, too, is why, for example, if I told a story about how kids can use telekinesis, so to speak, why would you instantly disbelieve that? There's no reason to, right? You know, people used to believe that blood was blue, and then only when it touched air it became red. Apparently that's not true. You know, I know people used to believe that if you did sit-ups that you could just lose your belly fat somehow, that you could like target fat loss. You know, there's all these different things that we learn as humans, like as a race, basically, as a whole species, that are always changing. And some things that seem to have in the past even been solid beliefs. Well, like the world being flat, for example, or that, yeah, like some point in the Europeans' time period, they didn't realize at all that there is an entire landmass over here called North America and so on. Like, so there's all these gaps in our knowledge, or all these things in the grand human knowledge that are changing constantly. Why would you think that it's a good belief to be solid on any sort of belief system, like the current narrative, for example? Like, you know, remember when we were young, and by that I mean like everyone, but no, like not just some time ago, there was this thing called global warming. And then before that, I believe it was called something else too. It's been going on since the 70s, right? This, not the phenomenon itself, but the narrative and the belief systems behind it. But they're changing constantly. And the theories are always changing. And the names have changed, like from global warming, now it's climate change. I've heard it called other things even. But yeah, there was names before those too. And every time, somehow, it's always like the people too that don't think for themselves, that they instantly buy into that. They're like, oh, the government says that this is bad, we got to do this now. You know, oh, climate change is about this. Like, they don't question the fact at all that, yeah, things are changing, but in a real sense, everything has always been changing since the beginning of the beginning. That's the point, and it will until the end. You know, if you don't change, then you die. Simple as that. If you're not growing, you're dying. You know, but why then, if if these belief systems are always coming up, oh, this is the thing that we have to believe now all of a sudden. Like, you can't be sure about it. And how come you're not looking into the fact that, yeah, maybe things are changing. Yeah, maybe humans do have an effect on it. But why are they telling us it in this way? Why are they portraying the story this way? That's the point. It's how they put the narrative towards you. All the things behind it may be true. However, if they're pushing it a certain way, it's because maybe they want you to buy a certain product, or they want you to think a certain way because it's beneficial for the people that are pushing the narrative. And that's who I mean by they. Because the they that they always talk about doesn't exist. And people are like, that's what they say. There is no they, okay? That's the final lesson of today's talk, all right? There is no they. There is no they. There is actually potentially evil entities, or what we would consider to be bad energy. There's definitely bad ideas that people are possessed by. But there is no they. Like, there's just this one probably evil cult that's behind everything in the world. I really don't think so. And even if that was true, those people aren't really the they. Like, they're possessed, like I said, by the they, which is the spirit beyond that, the spirit of evil, or the spirit of corruption, or of greed, so to speak. Like, realistically too, a lot of these probably billionaires and so on that are pushing certain agendas, or political figures, etc., they actually don't necessarily in their hearts think that they have malintentions. In a lot of cases, I think they probably think they're doing the right thing somehow or another, or a necessary thing. That's one of the ways how they all become corrupted in so many ways. Oh, well, if I'm going to get to the next level, you have to take on the necessary evil, right? Like, you're not just going to rise to the top of your party by not kissing some asses. Like, oh no, I'm going to stick to my guns 100%. Well, then you're an independent. You're not part of, like, the party. Like, I don't know if you've heard of the term party whip. What is the party whip? The party whip is kind of, in a way, a metaphor for an enforcer of an ideology, right? And that's exactly the whole point of this. The they that people are talking about is an ideology, or an idea, or if you want to take it deeper, a spirit, so to speak. Well, I don't know if that was very directed or not, but I feel like these philosophies somehow tie together. Check out this. I guess the point is that humans have hidden abilities, and there's not necessarily a great conspiracy to suppress them, at least not by other humans, but maybe by a force of some kind. Call it evil, call it what you will. Who cares? Conclusions suck. Yeah, look at this place. What a piece of garbage. Like I was saying, oh, the world was so much better in the old days. Oh man, everything's so messed up nowadays, like with social media. Yeah. How about, like, just go outside?